the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. My name is Brian Wallace, and I am the MS Michigan Man 64. The MS Michigan Man 64 podcast is about chronic disease awareness. I have had multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. It's an invisible chronic disease that I've been battling for half of my life. I want to share with you what it is like living with the chronic disease from my experiences and the experiences of other chronic disease warriors. We can fight to have a voice to those that want to listen. Together, we can motivate and educate. Hi, and welcome to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. Today, I am sitting down with an MSer from over across the ocean in England. I met her on social media, on TikTok, and she wanted to come on and share her MS journey with me just to help people to understand this disease a little bit better. Please welcome to the podcast, Karen. How are you doing today, Karen?
Hi, Brian. Yes, I'm good, thank you.
Awesome. Karen.
Very good.
Yeah, I am so excited to have you. I just love the way that you're attacking this disease, and we'll get into all that, Karen. But the first thing I want to start out asking you is, just take us through your journey of how you got diagnosed, where you were at in life, and just how the path went of your MS diagnosis.
Okay, I'd always had an underlying fatigue from the age of 16. I'm 44 now. And initially, I just thought, well, I've left school. I'm no longer doing regular exercise. That's probably why. And as time evolved, I had that underlying fatigue. And then at the age of 31, I had a child.
Okay.
I then discovered it was taking me longer than I expected, even though I'd not had a child before, to sort of get over the childbirth. And I thought, well, I have no other children. Maybe this is just what you're meant to feel. And it could take some people longer than others to recover after that traumatic experience for your body, which is childbirth.
Sure. Yeah.
So I was repeatedly going back to the doctor with the fatigue, and she just said, oh, it's because you're running around after a little one, and kept kind of like putting me off because she knew how fit and healthy I was in general terms. Mm-hmm. But I kept persisting. And then this one day back in 2019, so my daughter was then coming about 5.5, 6. Mm-hmm. And I remember stood still talking to a friend after we'd had a sit down and a cup of tea for an hour. Then I remember being in heat on the floor, but I have no recollection of what happened in between.
Wow.
We both laughed and joked it off, and she said to me, oh, you've been doing too many Fitbit walking challenges, so go home and rest. And I thought, do you know what? I'm actually going to listen this time. Maybe she's right. Mm-hmm. So I went home, rested overnight. The next day, I did feel a bit better. But then as soon as I woke up, I felt like I'd been run over by a train. I looked physically okay, but literally I felt like I'd been run over by a train. And I thought, okay, this isn't normal. And yesterday, losing consciousness from standing still to being on the floor, that's not normal.
All right.
So I contacted my doctor. She agreed it's not normal. I got referred to a neurologist, got the letter come through. There were no appointments whatsoever, even after I went online to check. So then I said to my husband, I'm going to see a neurologist private, because I knew for a very, very long time that I had this underlying fatigue, and now these additional symptoms had just presented themselves. And I did not want to be in a situation where I was told, oh, you've got this, but it would have best treated early, and now it's too late.
Wow.
He reluctantly agreed, and we spent hundreds of UK pounds to go private. Mm-hmm. Within 2 weeks, I'd had a couple of MRI scans. I got my results, and the neurologist said to me, I can't believe I remember the words. He said, I can't believe I'm saying this, knowing how fit and healthy you are. And at that time, I was 38. He said, but I am confident you've got multiple sclerosis. So I went, oh, thank goodness for that. Well, my husband, who wasn't my husband at the time then, nearly fell off his chair because in a kind way, I think he was hoping it would be a few £100 of wasted money that we didn't need to spend.
Yeah, right.
So when we were given that, for him, it was a bit of a shocker. Whereas for me, I didn't know it was going to be multiple sclerosis, but I had narrowed it down through a process of elimination that it was going to be something connected to my autoimmune system.
Wow, that's interesting that that's just interesting that you actually did the research on your own, Karen, and figured that out. Because I know when I got diagnosed when I was 27, I literally had no clue of even what the autoimmune system was. I didn't have any knowledge of MS. I didn't even have any knowledge of a lot of chronic diseases. I was a healthy, 27-year-old. So that's just really amazing that you advocated for yourself that early, and you really didn't have any knowledge, but you just knew that there was something wrong. That you knew. It was almost like I just need an MRI, and you had to pay out of pocket to go get it done because you're over there in the UK, and you guys either have the socialized medicine or you have to pay out of pocket. So I've talked with other people. That's just such an interesting path that you had, that you almost self-diagnosed yourself with something autoimmune.
Yeah, and then about 8 months later, I got referred to the National Health System, which is paid for through taxes, etc. And they did more, another MRI and the lumbar puncture, because my then neurologist, a different chap I was under, said, I want to be thorough because what you've shared with me about your story, the symptoms could be a couple of different things. And I don't want to scare you, but have you heard of something called lupus? I said no. He said, I would never normally say this, but if you have no understanding of what it is, have a look and research what it is. So while we're waiting for some results in the corridor, I said to my husband, the good news is let's hope it's multiple sclerosis, because lupus involves organ failure and multiple sclerosis is no longer a death sentence. So that's the best option we've got on the cards. So let's hope that the first guy we saw is accurate and spot on.
Hey, you know what?
I remember going into that room. Oh, it was so funny.
It is funny. And that's the thing that, like, when I got diagnosed, it was like almost a relief that I got told that I had MS. I was like, oh, all right. Because, it explained what was going on the last 10 months, why I was having problems with my vision, why I was tripping. My balance was all out of whack, and I didn't understand what was going on, but at least I finally got an answer. And when I got that answer, I'm like, okay, all right. I was happy about it. And then when I finally learned about what MS was, I'm like, oh, okay, well, you might be a little bit screwed, but I kind of like got that attitude, like, all right, game on, let's play ball and let's see what we can do to try to keep on going. And I just kept on learning the more and more I learned and just how to attack this disease. And sometimes it's just a matter of attitude. But I want to ask you, when you got that diagnosis and you were told that and you were engaged or you weren't even married yet, how did you and your husband, after you processed it and figured out what exactly MS was, how did you guys process that information from the mental standpoint of it?
I think only I have. To this day, because we're all made differently. But I chose, and told my husband at the time this, I chose not to tell anyone other than him, and like literally a handful of people I knew at the time who I was close to for the first year, because for me, once I'd shared this news, because it was a forever condition, there was no undoing that moment and having my time again.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hold on to that until I felt the time was ready for me as an individual, so that I could just take that time to really process and digest, this unexpected life change.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was brilliant because it gave me the time to reflect and absorb, and get my communication ready for when I did want to share with the world. And I was happy with how it was then going to be communicated because I had time to prepare for that.
Yeah. Wow. And I always tell everybody, like for me, and I know everybody's MS is different, but for me, the physical part is hard, but the mental part is the hardest part to me. And that's the part that I've struggled with for 27 years. When you get knocked down, it just tears you down, the mental part of it. And I know it does with the family too. And it's a life change for everybody involved with this disease. And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand, just what we go through. So let me ask you this, Karen, when you got that diagnosis, and usually everybody, the first thing that a doctor does is say, hey, we got to get you on a DMT right away, to slow the progression of this disease. What was your path on your DMT journey?
When I was given the diagnosis, my neurologist at the time, who I believe was genuinely thorough with his diagnosis, he said to me, right, these are the choices we've got. We can put you on a DMT, but from my professional opinion, he said to me, I don't believe that yourself being on a DMT would be beneficial. Whatever autoimmune drugs that we give to individuals are going to totally screw up their system. And he said the idea of them was to encourage the condition to go to sleep. Right. And he believed at that time that mine was dormant, so therefore he didn't believe they would be beneficial. I was happy to not take anything. Yeah. For now, because I didn't know anything about the condition. I'd not done any research or of my own. I didn't know anyone with the condition. The only people I knew were those handful of medical professionals at that time. Mm-hmm. So I haven't been on a DMT for the 6 years I've been diagnosed. But as time is evolving, I'm now wanting to have those conversations because I am a bit more educated on the benefits of slowing things down. But it is a chicken and egg situation from my personal perspective, is that I want to slow the progression down if there is that opportunity, but I don't want to put something into my body if it's not needed, because I met one person locally who I first interacted with about 5 years ago, who got diagnosed many years ago. Then the drugs weren't what they are today. And she genuinely told me her story, which is she has worse medical conditions she lives with now because of the side effects of being on a DMT when she originally took those limited choices that were available. So for me, knowing of that was, I don't want to argue with someone saying, I'm not going to put you on a DMT, where I knew of that person's story who was close to me and local.
Yeah. Wow.
I know things have advanced. I know there's a lot more choices, but that just sat with me.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, I understand I always tell people, like, there's so many journeys with this journey. There's a journey just getting diagnosed, and then there's a journey with your DMT decision. Back when I got diagnosed 27, there were only 3 DMTs. So, and because I didn't have any knowledge, and I was 27 years old and I was scared shitless, I basically let the doctors, just basically take care of me. And my doctor's like, we got to get you on a DMT right away. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's do this. And, I went on Copaxone. And, and it was a good path for me. I mean, I went 15 years with very little symptoms. I'd have an episode here and there. It would cause my vision to get a little bit worse, but I was still moving around. I was still working 40 plus hours a week. I was bringing up 2 kids. I was still living life, but I understand that decision on the DMT, and it is a hard decision because these DMTs, they got a lot of reactions. You got one that gives you PML or possibility of giving you PML. And then there's others that, that have the possibility of cancer, liver damage, this. I mean, you read all this stuff and your head's spinning. But you ultimately have to make that choice, and it's not an easy choice sometimes. But it's a lot better when you got people that are with you and support you. And it sounded like you had a doctor that was supporting you. He was like saying, hey, I don't think a DMT is even going to really make it that much of a difference now. And I didn't ask you this. Did you get diagnosed with relapse remit or primary progressive?
Relapsing and remitting.
Okay. All right. That's the same thing that I got diagnosed with too. And that's one, if you're going to have a good one, I guess that's probably the best one to have when you get your diagnosis.
Well, that's a bit of a double-edged sword as well from my research, because if you have relapsing and remitting MS, the research has shown that there's a stronger link to then transferring across to secondary in time. I'm not saying that is definitely going to happen for anyone, because absolutely that's not correct.
Mm-hmm.
But that in itself, when I read that information, was like, oh my God, this is a double-edged sword. Okay, I've not currently got primary progressive, and I've not got secondary, and I've not got aggressive or active version. But from everything I've read, being in this state now with RRMS could potentially mean this. Well, I just can't think about that, because it's going to take me down a really doom and gloom rabbit hole, which isn't me.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree with you. Understand what you're talking about. Just because that we're wired, we're all wired our individual way, and we got to figure it out. I always tell MSers, you learn real quick. You got to figure shit out, because nothing the rest of your life is going to go the way that you want it to go. It's gonna be an up and down battle, but you got to get an attitude, and that's the attitude that I love about when I met you. I want to start talking about your running, and I know that you said that you weren't running like this after you got diagnosed. You had to work your way through it, and we got kind of like the same mentality, because I attacked it in the weight room, and you attacked it by running. And just, can you kind of like talk to us about your journey with how you fought this disease, how you fought back and got your mobility back, and what you're doing now? Because it's an awesome story to hear.
Yeah. In November 2019, I physically couldn't walk more than 10 minutes without debilitating vertigo and dizziness. So I decided to concentrate on what I could do. So for the next 4 or 5 months, that was all mental, cognitive activities. So that's what I concentrated on. Then one day I felt different within myself. And I thought, I feel like my normal energy levels for my age. I know what, I'm going to give Couch to 5K a go, which is a running incentive for someone that's never ran before, to then eventually doing 5 kilometers over the course of 9 weeks.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Never thought.
That's over in the UK, right? What's it called again?
Couch to, yeah.
Yeah, because
Couch to 5K.
Okay, yeah, because I'll even put that in the description about the episode, because I just think that's an awesome tool that you found. But I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead and continue your.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
So it's really for anybody that's never maybe done exercise of any kind. Just used to being on their couch or sofa, and then it gets you to run eventually 5K over the 9-week period that it includes.
Yeah.
So I always just thought about the day I was in, the run I was in, and never even thought about the whole 9-week period, just where I was at any given day. And before I knew it, I'd completed the program and I was running 5K. And then I kept up my regular exercise alongside doing a couple of other things, like going to a few classes and going to a gym.
Mm-hmm.
And then exactly 3 years later, to when originally I couldn't walk more than 10 minutes, I then, for charity, the MS Society in the UK, I ran 90K over the course of a month.
Oh my God, that is just so unbelievable and inspirational, Karen, that you did that after diagnosis. I did an episode with a beautiful MSer up in Michigan, Kathy Chester, who is an MSer for 27 years, I believe it was, about the same as me. And she did the same thing. She got diagnosed back around 1997, 1998, and she ran a 5K or a 10K after she got diagnosed, and I was just blown away. That's just the possibilities. You know, you never can give up. You always got to keep trying. You always got to find something to motivate you. You found that, you attacked it, and look at you today. And the thing that I really want to say is you're doing this your way. You're doing this without a DMT. You figured out how you were going to attack it, and you're doing it. And I know that you're going through the decision of actually going on a DMT, but I mean, the point is that for 6 years, you've been kicking the shit out of MS your way. And I just love that.
Mm-hmm. But there is a lot you can do for yourself, whether you're living with multiple sclerosis, another condition, or just looking after yourself full stop. You know, we don't have to have anything to show ourselves good self-care. Mm. And for me, this is why I think the medical professionals were so shocked when I got my results. I am one of those rare people that they want you to be like the textbook that they're promoting with health, in that I drink 2 liters of water every day and have done from about the age of 15. I regularly exercise. I don't smoke. I don't drink alcohol. It sounds really boring, but that's just my general healthy self. And if there's a choice between being the best possible me or not, now I know I've got something that I have to make that effort, then I'm going to give it my 100%.
God, I love it. I love it, Karen. I just love your attitude. And people need to hear that. They need to hear, you know, this. I always tell people, you know, I'll tell you anything you want to know about my MS, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I mean, there are good things about this disease that I'm grateful for. You know, it really humbled me. And I always talk to people too, because I get a lot of people that, you know, the mental part of this disease, and they always make comments to me about, you know, well, I can't do this anymore. I used to do this. I ran a 10K and now I can't run, because I used to run too. And it hurt me, but I still figured out a way to beat MS. I got into a weight room and I got on the treadmill and I was holding onto the railings and I was still like I was jogging. You know, I mean, I'm like, all right, you're not going to let me do it. You're not going to let me do it the normal way. I'm going to figure out a way to do it that I'm still going to get something out of it. And I figured it out. And that's what you did. And that's what I try to tell people. You can figure this out. This disease, you can't quit. It's going to knock you down. And you got to get back up, dust yourself off, and get your way around that roadblock and keep on moving on.
Exactly. And that's a good mindset to always keep with you. I mean, it is impacting me currently with my career because of the cognitive functioning issues I've had. I lost my job a couple of months ago. But apart from that, there's nothing physically that's holding me back right now. So rather than concentrate on what I've lost, I'm now looking at what I've gained, and I'm exploring some other opportunities that I can do physical work whilst I'm having these cognitive issues. This has happened to me before once about 8 years ago, and the same thing happened. Okay, I can't do this right now with the thinking, but I can throw myself into this type of job, which is practical. And you know what? It's all about concentrating on my cans for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I genuinely believe in life. There's always a silver lining, always, even if sometimes you have to look a bit harder to find it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always try to tell MSers that I meet, or anybody with a chronic disease that is feeling that mental part of it, that, you know, I can't do what I used to do. You did it though. I mean, MS is never, ever going to take away the fact that I played football at the University of Michigan and I went to 3 Rose Bowls and a Gator Bowl and 4 Big Ten championships and all that. MS is never going to take that away. You know, I'm never going to be able to do that again, but I mean, I would never be able to do that again, even if I was healthy at 55. So, I mean, it's a memory, it's an accomplishment. And all the accomplishments that I did after my diagnosis, you know, bringing my 2 kids up, you know, they're 22 and 26 now. and working 26 years with this disease. That's an accomplishment that I pat myself on the back with all the time, because a lot of people can't do that. And I'm like, you know what? I kicked the shit out of MS working with this disease for 26 years. That's pretty damn good. I'm proud of that. And I try to tell people, be proud of your accomplishments with or without this disease for the rest of your life.
Exactly. I mean, for me, looking at it the same way but slightly different, if I had not have been diagnosed with MS, would I have run 90K? Absolutely not. No way.
Yeah.
No way would I have done that. To me, it's given me the kick up the bum to stop me being complacent with my health and go out there and live life a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. You used MS as a motivation that actually benefited you. I love that approach. That is just so awesome, Karen. Let me ask you another question. Because I have tools that I use, what is your best tool that you use just to cope with this disease? I use Community. I use TikTok a lot. I use this podcast a lot. It's not making me any money, but I'm meeting awesome people, and we're getting to spread awareness about MS and other chronic diseases. What are the kind of tools that you use to just kind of take your mind off of the disease and just to keep you motivated to keep on fighting?
I love comedy. Absolutely love comedy. And oddly enough, love being in the front row of live comedy.
Awesome.
That's one of my passions. I don't know if you've heard of this MS charity called Shift MS.
I have heard of that. Yes, I have.
Okay. Since February this year, I was asked if I would like to be the voluntary takeover manager. So every weekend they have a different individual covering their platform on X.
Oh, wow.
And they need to be given access permission on a Friday and then have that removed on a Monday and be available for support in case anything goes wrong over the weekend. And I'm like you, Brian. I wouldn't say I'm very techy, but I've been doing it since February, and I've inspired myself with how much I've managed to self-teach myself to be an IT professional and support.
There you go.
So again, if I had not had MS, I would not have gone outside of my comfort zone and done that. And it's also helped broaden my multiple sclerosis network. I love connecting with different people. And I would say now, compared to when I was diagnosed 6 years ago, I know so many people across so many different platforms, and doing this voluntary role for Shift MS, which I really enjoy, is something that adds to that.
Yeah, that is just awesome, Karen. I try to tell everybody, you just got to find it. I found podcasting to be my mental health relief, talking to people and just sharing our stories. I love talking to people, and I thank MS for that. Because I wouldn't have been doing this 2-3 years ago or even 5 years ago. But I mean, the fact that MS took away my ability to be able to work in a traditional job. I found this. Okay, it's not a real job, but it is a job to me. It is a fun job. It is a motivation. I love to work. I've always been a workaholic. And this is fun, and it's work, and it keeps my mind off of it. And that's what you got to do. You got to find that mental release.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I literally feel like, without trying, I have a new hobby, which is collecting podcast hosts. You are the third podcast host that I have been fortunate enough to be working alongside, and there is a fourth one as well that I've had conversations with, and I just find it fascinating that I'm meeting all these people that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet if I wasn't where I am now.
Yep, absolutely. I'm 55 years old. I've never been outside of the United States other than I went to Mexico on a couple of vacations. But I've never even really talked to anybody outside the United States, other than people that have come over to the United States to live. permanently. But now I'm talking to people over in Norway, and I'm talking to people over in England, and I'm talking to people in Canada, and it's just awesome. And we just have this common bond. I don't know anybody that I talk to. But as soon as I start talking to them, we both have MS and we get it. We just understand it. We laugh and we just, we bitch about the disease a little bit but we keep on moving. And that's why I love doing this, just meeting people, sharing the stories, hearing how they fight. And you are one of the people that I just love watching on TikTok. And I also want to give a shout out. You said you wanted to talk about another guy that is doing his bike over in Canada. Tell me more about him, and I'm going to put this in the description too, because this guy's a badass too, and I'm going to start following him.
This guy is called Dominic Shadbolt. He's known on TikTok and most of his social platforms as the MS Guide. He has had the condition for 33 years, and he decided that he wanted to cycle from one side of Canada to the other, which is 8,000 kilometers.
Wow, that's just...
He started on the 1st of May. It's immense. He needs to cycle 80 kilometers every day, 6 days on, 1 day off, for 4 months solid.
Wow.
To be able to complete the 8,000 kilometers. And I'm just absolutely in awe of that. What he's doing, but also on top of that, he then set himself a fundraising target of $1 million US. It's just astronomical, and I just think he is so inspirational.
Oh my God, yeah!
I can't even process the enormity of what he is doing, and I've said that to him on our phone conversations before he left for Canada.
I can't even process that with somebody that's had this disease for 27 years, and I'm 55 years old, and I think you said that he's about my age, 55, and he's had it for 33 years. I don't, to tell you the truth, I don't even know that a lot of 55-year-old healthy people could do what he's doing. He's doing something that's just unbelievable for a 55-year-old guy to be biking across Canada. Yeah.
I always think too much to myself, like I'm regular fitness person that enjoys regular exercise. But when I try and think about just cycling 3 to 5K, that's enormous to me.
Right.
So when I try and process the 8,000 kilometer target he has set for himself, I just can't digest that because the enormity is so big.
Yeah. And the fact that the guy's got MS, that's just unbelievable. I'm definitely going to be following this guy. I got to watch him do this. This is unbelievable. I'm going to be cheering him on. Is there anything else that you want to let anybody know that is dealing with similar situations that we've been through, Karen, that are scared? That just don't know what's going to happen with the rest of their life. Is there any kind of message that you want to give them before we start wrapping it up?
Remember, from my own experience, remember what I was taught in the very early days after being diagnosed, in that this is fluid. No 2 days are the same. Everyone's story is different. Don't compare yourself to somebody else because someone else's story isn't your story.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. And I tell people that all the time, Karen. I'm like 27 years. I'll tell you anything you want about my disease, and I'll describe it to a T from beginning till right now. But it's not going to be your journey. Your journey is going to be your journey. It's going to be different. It might affect your eyes more than mine. I hope to God not, because my eyes are pretty shitty. But there's different battles with this disease, and it's individual. Don't compare yourself just because somebody is up and mobile for 30 years. Don't think that you have to be that person, even though you want to be that person, obviously. But if you're not, don't think you're a failure. You're not a failure. You're not a failure because you have to use a cane. You're not a failure because you have to use a walker or a wheelchair. You're still a human being, and you still have a lot to give to people and society. And that's always been my message to anybody that has asked me, how do you keep on going? You just got to find it. You got to find the motivation, and you have found it, Karen. And I love your message. I would definitely have you on again because I just love keeping track of how you just kick the shit out of it every day. You're running 5K, and I'm just like, oh my God, I wish I can still do that. I just hope you can do it for another 20, 30 years. And as long as you possibly can, keep on running.
Yeah, and me too. I would also just share that the power of your own mind is immense.
Yep.
And please don't let anyone, if you're naturally have a positive outlook, make you feel bad for having that positive outlook. I found trying to find positivity within my MS community when I was diagnosed was very, very difficult. And nobody should be told how you should feel about this or that you are some kind of not normal because you're positive about it. Everyone is different, just be you.
I love it. I love it, Karen. That's such a beautiful message and so well put. I can't argue with anything that you have said in this whole podcast episode. I love talking to you. Like I said, I will definitely have you on again. And it's just this is an awesome community. I everybody that I meet that has MS or any other kind of a chronic disease, they just want to be understood. And we get each other, and if we can come together and just get as loud as we can, maybe we can make a difference in the world, because it doesn't matter where you're from. You can be from the UK, you can be from Norway, Canada, exactly. Australia. It does not matter. We have MS, and we get each other, and we need to get together and cheer each other on, and just educate people about what it's like.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Karen, for coming on and joining me. I'm going to get going. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you are listening on. And you can follow me on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64. You can also find me on TikTok, MS Michigan Man 64. And you can also catch me on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. Until the next episode, MS Michigan Man 64, I am out.